Hi everyone, welcome back to another design tutorial, and today we're going to check out these cool hover animations which we can do with the new hover animations feature in XD. These look really cool and smooth, and they're hover buttons that can be done in just one artboard now. Thanks to the new interaction features, you can make everything now in one artboard, and you can even move them around and do stuff with them. So without further ado, let's just get started. So first of all, I'll create a basic artboard. I'll go ahead and create a rectangle here, which will be our button, and I'll just make it so that it looks like a button. And I will also give this about 500 pixels of border radius, which is not necessary, but I'm just giving it. And I'm going to give this a 2 pixel border, and maybe 3 pixels, perfect. And I will give this border a purplish hue, so a purple color will do. And in the dash here, I'll put in 10, and gap I can give 20, perfect. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in whatever text that I want. In this case, it's going to be hover, and I'm just going to make it big enough for the button and put it right in the center, just like that. And I'll make it bold. Give it the same color as this border, so I'm just going to use the color picker for this and put it in this absolute center. Perfect. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to create some waves, and I'll just make some very casual random waves. They don't need to be a specific size or dimension. And let me make one, and I will copy this over, and that's it. 2 elements need to be created, and for the first wave I'll give it a fill, and I'll give it a fill of the same purple that we have here. And for the second wave, which is down below here, I will give this a fill of a blue hue. Now this will look interesting with this purple right here. So one last step that we need to do is say Command D to duplicate this rectangle, which is the button essentially. Make sure that this is at the top, and select the button, and both of these waves, and say Command Shift M or Control Shift M on Windows to mask them. Now the next thing that we need to do is make sure that both of these waves are out of bounds, so as to say. And one wave is smaller as well. Even the other wave, you can make it much smaller, just like this. And that's about it. Now what we need to do is just select everything on screen and group it, Command G, Control G, and convert it into a symbol or a component. So Command K. Command K will convert it into a component, and with the new feature we have a component, as you can see, master right here. We can actually add a state. So if we click here, as you can see, we want a hover state, and they already have it right here. I'll click on hover state and save it. That's it. Now what I'll do is I will leave the default state. I'll select the hover state right here. I'll just click on it and come back onto the artboard. And here I'll make all the necessary changes. So first of all, I'll make sure that the text is now white. I'll also make sure that if I go inside the mask, I will just pull these anchor points out like this. Make sure you evenly pull it out, and make sure that it's evenly spreads out and covers the button itself. And I'll also pull out this little blue wave as well. They should be equally placed. Make sure that the blue one is at the back, and also make sure that the purple one is behind the text, that is for sure. So make sure that the hover is at the top as well. Now we'll need to make some changes to the default state. We'll also make sure that the purple path is above the blue path. Perfect. That's all we needed to do. And we have it. We don't need to copy this artboard. That is all we needed to do. Now if we go to prototype, as you can see, there's a little electric icon here at the end, which indicates a hover state. And in hover, as you can see, there are 2 triggers. You can switch to tap, or in this case, we'll just leave it at hover. And we'll go for auto animate, of course. And we can choose which state we want to go to, and this is hover state. And ease in out. and I'll give this about 0.6 seconds. Now remember, you have to make these changes in prototype mode while default state is selected right here. So once you have that selected, you can make these changes. So let's go ahead and play this. See how there's a hint of blue behind the purple, but the purple is what takes over. That was the first animation. Now let's get started with the second one, shall we? And for this one, what we need to do is, first of all, make the background yellow. I want to remove the border and just make the background this a kind of a soft, deep yellow. Perfect. Maybe slightly lighter. Perfect. And this, the text has to be this brownish hue, if you may. I'll just choose the yellow and just make it a little brown, just like this. Perfect. And I want to import an image of a mouse. And by mouse, I mean this little guy here. And you can get this off the internet, or you can get this off the Adobe Xd file, which I will link for you guys to download in the description. And here, I just want to bring it in just like this. And you can change the shadow or, leave it as it is. And I'll just duplicate this yellow button here and give this a shadow. So 24 by 48 should do it, and make sure the shadow is slightly darker. Perfect. And I'll place it here and make sure it's behind everything else. Perfect. That will be, which is rectangle 13. I will reduce the opacity to 0. Perfect. That is how we'll get the depth or shadow effect. The last thing that I need to do is create the small ripple effect that you saw in the beginning of the video. And I'll place it right here and make sure this is the brown and make it like 10% in opacity. That's fine. And what I'll do one last time, I'll duplicate this rectangle or button and say Command D to duplicate it. Bring it on top and select this ripple circle as well as the rectangle and say Command Shift M to mask it. Masking is pretty easy. Make sure that this cursor is actually at the top. And reduce the opacity for this circle to 0 and make sure it's kind of out of bounds from this rectangle. Perfect. And also make sure that you increase the size of this mouse, move it down a little bit, and reduce the opacity to 0. Now what we're going to do is select everything here and say Command K to make it a component. Now that we have a default state, we will click on this plus icon and click on hover state. Perfect. And for this hover state, what we're going to do is, first of all, the rectangle at the back, we're going to increase the opacity to 100. Now that we have this, so that we have the shadow. You can adjust the shadow by adjusting the opacity just like this. And I will also select this circle, which is invisible, which will act as a ripple. I will also select this mouse and increase the opacity to 100 and make it smaller and make it come closer to this button, just like this. One last thing that we need to do is select this mask group and select this circle, which was our ripple, and increase the opacity to not 100 but 10. And just move it in closer to the mouse just like this and make it much bigger. And once we have this circle extended, that is all we need. We'll go to prototype, we'll see whatever we want is here. It's already set it to hover, so you don't need to worry. Remember, if the lightning icon is here, it's a hover state and it's set for you. You can even change it to tap, or you can leave it at hover. And I'll make this ease in out 0.5 or 0.4 seconds. That's it. And I'll just play it, make sure that it's at default state, and I'll play the preview. And if I hover over this, ooh, nice. Ooh, I really like this. I really like this animation. And it is simple but very effective. Okay, so for our third button, I will change this button color to a black, not complete pitch black, but make it 2C, 2C, 2C. That sounds good. And make this hover text a gold. And what we'll do is, to do that, we'll go to Object in the tab here in the top, and we'll go to Path and say Convert to Path. That way we will convert this to path and we can give this a gradient. So I've already saved this gradient in the XD file, and I'll click on this, and as you can see, it's already applied. And I will just go inside to edit it a little bit, make it larger, like a proper circle, and shift this circle here, maybe rotate it a little bit and give it a slight angle. Perfect. So now you have this gradient golden effect. Now what we're going to do is just duplicate this button in the background and give the same radiant effect. And I will also go ahead and change it, give it a similar gradient as we have given to the text here. And maybe make it a larger circle, give it a certain angle, just like this, and make sure it's there. And I can even reduce the opacity, or just move it out of bounds so it's not too harsh. And I think that's all we wanted. Now that we have the background button ready, I will make sure it's actually in the background and shift it right back. As you can see in the assets, in the layers panel as well, it's at the back. Now for the magical step, I will create a triangle just like this one. I'll rotate it and I'll place it right here. And for this one, we'll have to make it a much bigger triangle, that is for sure, so that it can cover this entire area. And we'll place it somewhere here. And I'll click on this triangle and also select this black rectangle in the background, say Command, Shift and M to mask it. And as you can see, it's hidden a part of this. Make sure that the hover button is at the top always. And for this mask, what I'll do is double click and select the triangle. I'll hit enter to make these little anchor points get revealed, and make sure this is, to begin with, a full width triangle, just like this. Perfect. So that the black is there. Now, for the second step, what I'll do is, first of all, I'll select all of this, say Command K or Control K to make it a component. Once it's a component, I will click on this plus icon and say hover state once again. And with while we're on the hover state, I will double click on this triangle, say enter to make the anchor points appear, and I will bring them in the center. Doesn't have to be bang in the center, just approximately in the center. And while I'm dragging these anchor points, I'll drag them to the opposite ends. Just drag them to the opposite ends. So whichever anchor point is on this side, we have to drag it to the other side, and vice versa. That is how we'll get the smooth panning effect. Perfect. Now I will check whether it's prototype ready. It's already made everything ready for us here. That's perfect. And I'll say ease in out, auto animate, hover, and also say duration of, I don't know, 0.5 seconds or maybe 0.4 seconds. Perfect. And I will go here and I'll start the preview. If I play this prototype, see how it smoothly animates across. That is a beautiful animation. So for the last design, which is also a wonderful design, I've just taken that same circular rectangle, and here, if you can see, there's this dotted border radius. So you can choose border radius for each of these corners. And for the first and the second last one, I have said 200 pixels on the border radius. That is how we created this rectangle. And I've already given it a beautiful blue gradient. Above this, I will place this beautiful lemon yellow text which says hover, because it is a contrasting color to this blue. Now for the waves, what I'll do is I'll click on the pen tool and I'll just create some beautiful smooth waves. Okay, I'm saying it like that, but you get the gist of it. I'll create these beautiful smooth waves which are actually moving towards the top, just like this, you know, or just like this, you know. Okay, so now that we have this wave ready, I've just edited the wave a little bit. What I'll do is I'll copy this background rectangle over everything else, just like this. Copy and select both of these, the wave as well as the rectangle on top. Say Command Shift M to mask it so that it doesn't go out of this rectangle. Now the wave has gone essentially, but it's still behind this. So what I'll do is click on this rectangle on top, go to blend modes here, click on the drop down, and here click on multiply. Now the blue colors have essentially just multiplied into this darker blue color right here. Perfect, it looks amazing. So for the last step, what I'll do is go inside this mask group, click on this little wave and just duplicate it by saying Command D. and I'll move this copied wave down like this and towards the left, so it looks as if it's continuing with this little wave on the left. Perfect. Now what I'll do is I'll select everything here, say Command K to make it a component, of course, click on plus and say hover state. Press enter and there you go. So for in the hover state, what I'll do is I will just first of all click on the mask, select the path or the wave on the top, and what I'm going to do essentially here is move the wave a little bit just like this, and also press enter to show these anchor points, and I'll move the wave forward just like this. So each wave needs to be moved forwards and towards the top a little bit, just like this. Not too much, I mean it depends, whatever your taste is, whether you want to move it a lot or you want to move it a little, that's up to you. And I'll bring the other path also towards this place, and I'll also move this these anchor points towards these waves as well, just like this, so they fit in with the second wave. Absolutely perfect. Now if I go to default state right here and I go to prototype, I can change the hover state to ease in out and 0.6 seconds, and it's already set to hover. So if I go and play this, and if I hover over this button, ooh, see how this wave just flows forward? You can make it a longer wave if you want or if you like, but I'll leave it at this. I hope you really liked this video. If you did, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. We're almost to 10,000 subscribers. We're almost there. And also like this video if you did, share it with your design buddies, and I'll see you every Monday and Thursday. God bless.